Started Snapfish along with two other co-founders, where we raised like a shitload of money and blew it up. They had a lot of very good parties. I've had good co-founders who put up with my shit. I wish somebody told me this in the beginning. Surprisingly, this information is there everywhere, but kind of nobody knows it. $30 million, $50 million to $1.5 billion of revenue companies. A lot of people are using ChatGPT but don't want to tell their bosses that they're using it because they're worried they're considered cheating. You should be very scared. Okay. I'm an AI advisor to a private equity fund in Europe. I'll tell you about the positives and negatives. What happens in a very conservative Islamic country stays in the conservative Islamic country, as they say.
Hi everybody, welcome again to the next episode of the Prime Venture Partners podcast. And today I have, quite often you look for good guests and then you realize you have one in living in plain sight or hiding in plain sight. My good friend and partner at Prime Venture Partners, Bala Parthasarathy, who's been an entrepreneur, VC, and went back to becoming an entrepreneur and is now probably one of the messiahs of the brave new world of AI. So Bala, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sanjay.
And, you've done so many things over the course of, I guess, a relatively short career. It's still sort of innovating all the time. It'd be great for our audience to know a little bit about what your journey has been from growing up to various entrepreneurship stints to working together and then coming back to India and working on Aadhaar and things that we have done together. So would love to if you could share some of that.
Sure, happy to. I'm relatively young. I'm only like 32 years old, but I'll try to compress my life story. So the short of it, Sanjay, is that I grew up in Chennai, went to IIT Madras. Actually, didn't get into IIT Madras the first time. But then tried again and got in, which was kind of lucky because I met our common partner Shripati at IIT. So I think if I'd gotten in the first time, I don't know what I'd be doing. So I went abroad like everybody did at that time, we all did. And I got my degree in computer science in the US, but I was super lucky to be in the Valley in the early 90s. It was kind of the right place, right time. Long story short, I did a bunch of startups, mostly in the enterprise space. And in late 99, Shripati and I started Snapfish along with two other co-founders. We did the usual sort of Silicon Valley thing at the time, dotcom thing, where we raised like a shitload of money and blew it up. We had a lot of very good parties. So
that's what you get when three of your co-founders are from Harvard Business School. Right?
That is true, and one or two of them are good dancers. Then there was neither Shripati nor me, the other two.
Shripati's learning though, but
so
off the record officially.
So anyway, long story short, the dot-com boom was great. We raised a shitload of money, and then luckily we didn't burn all of it when the market crashed. But then it was, we had to shrink the company from 200 people to 20 people. But we turned the company profitable and eventually sold it to Hewlett-Packard. And then
what a pretty package.
that was all right. So we did fine, and HP wanted me to run the global business. So they said, "Where do you want to go?" I said, "Let me go to Singapore," which is where the HP headquarters was. But my wife said, "No, Singapore is too boring. Let's go to India." So that's where I ended up. And the second sort of coincidence happened where I happened to rent a place in Palm Meadows, right next to you.
Yeah,
so since then, we've been together in a journey.
And sort of prophetic that you named your son after me, which is sort of what started our conversations actually. There was a little kid called Sanjay. He was 9 months old now. He's like.
Yeah, so the reason I named him is that I realized this guy's going to be a part of my future, and if I need to yell at Sanjay, I needed a good excuse.
Now I know why he used to keep yelling at me. Okay, it wasn't directed at me.
Stop it, Sanjay. Just kidding. So we were neighbors. My son's name is Sanjay, and so we started. We were brainstorming ideas at the time, but both of us started at Aadhaar, which I think has seen a great break that many of us had at the time to be working in the ground floor of Aadhaar.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, this morning, I kind of reluctantly agreed to give a lecture in the University of Washington School of Business because of my alma mater, and I woke up at 5 a.m. and did a class at 5:30, and I talked about Aadhaar and India Stack and the impact it's had. And I think we didn't have enough time for all the questions. There was just so much of interest here, and that I think was certainly a seminal moment for all of us and for the country and perhaps the world as well. So, you were supposed to say good things about being an entrepreneur and being frugal about things. So I hope people don't take all these stories about your blowing up all the cash. It did happen once again, I think, in the world in the 2020 era a little bit. But that must have been quite a journey in itself, right? The one way of building a company, and then the world suddenly imploded, and then you had to completely get back to basics and do things sort of the right way. Tell us a little bit about that transition, because a lot of companies go through that, right? You start off, you have very ambitious plans, things start going reasonably well, you start raising rounds of funding, and we're seeing that now with the AI era as well. And at some point, reality will strike, and it won't be a soft landing, if at all there is a landing for people, right? So maybe you can talk a little bit about what are some of the steps you all had to take.
And I wish I'd kind of somebody told me this in the beginning. Surprisingly, this information is there everywhere, but kind of nobody knows it. It's also you have to follow sort of the cycles of how venture capital. First of all, understand how venture capital works. If you're going to take venture money, right? If you're one of those rare people who can bootstrap themselves, and we have some great examples in India who have done that, that's a different journey. But if you're going to bootstrap yourself, if you're not going to bootstrap yourself, you're going to take venture money, you need to understand how the venture capital works, which is you need to fuel growth, right? Now, here is the catch. So you need to fuel growth. Growth is the elixir. If you don't grow, then there is no game. And venture capital aids the growth, right? So this is where people always have a mistaken idea that, VCs are whatever, vulture capitalists, and VCs are, fueling this boom. They're like, spoiling you, so on and so forth. It's kind of like, not like that. It's more like, they're taking a bet. And we as venture capital, when we started Prime Ventures, we can also learn this, is that you need to fuel companies which have high growth. Now, at the same time, for the venture capitalists, it's, you bet on 10 companies, and if 2 of them are blockbusters, you've earned your return. So you want to fuel growth on all the 10 companies, but as an entrepreneur, you have only one company, right? So you can fuel growth is great. Growth, everybody loves growth. Entrepreneurs love growth, VCs love growth, customers love growth. Everybody likes growth, but you also have to watch the cycle. And if you blow out, right, the VCs will say, okay, tough luck, right? And they'll move on. You as your entrepreneur, you have only one company, right? So it's your baby. So, and understanding this balance and also where the world is going. I think in 1999, if you were too conservative, that would have been a bad move. And I think even in India, in 2020, 21, I think if you did not grow, that was not a good move. But when 2023, 24, when people are going IPO and finding out the market likes profitable companies, then if you don't watch profitability, that's a bad idea, right? You kind of also have to watch the cycle. And as an entrepreneur, you have only yourself to blame, right? The venture capitalists will give you money for growing. But as an entrepreneur, you have only one company, and you need to sort of watch where the world is going and act accordingly. It's my big learning, which is, again, obvious in retrospect, but not so obvious if you're in the race.
Yeah. No, and I think one of the things we set out to do when we started off, and we have continued to do here at Prime through subsequent funds, when you went back to becoming an entrepreneur, and then again, and in exploring that side again, which is the bright side. This is the, if people call it, but was really to be close enough but far enough, and sort of be that early warning system, if you will, that, hey, the world is changing, better to focus on the basics, or the world has changed, and it is maybe not growth at all costs, but growth is important, and you can't sort of be too conservative, right? I think these are some important indicators that one needs to, because you also get this window of opportunity to build these companies, and you get these few opportunities to get to the next level of orbit and or escape velocity. So maybe you can talk a little bit about your experiences with Aadhaar, right, and some of that journey, and how that fostered your thought process as well. I know we started working together there and then continued to work together. But yeah, your thoughts and insights.
Honestly, the overall takeaway was very humbling for me because I mean I've been in the US for 17 years. I'd done many startups before Snapfish, and then Snapfish was a great hit. I was kind of rating pretty high, and coming back to India in 2007, this Flipkart was fledgling, and the startup ecosystem was not there, and I had like kind of no idea about really how India works. And I think working in Aadhaar, going to villages, understanding how government works, and of course with Nandan Nilekani being an amazing shining star, and what his perspective was, I think was just very lucky. And also not only Nandan, but a whole bunch of other people that he had attracted. All of us, most of us are volunteers, working on this, and the people we have met, like people like Mashruwala and so on and so forth. Pramod Verma. So it's been life changing from us. But most importantly, I think I could understand how one could see scale when it was not very obvious, right? Nandan set out a goal saying we're going to do 50 crores, 500 million Aadhaars in 5 years, and that sounded ridiculous, honestly, at that time. But to actually see it happen, and the effort of so many people and the machinery that it took was humbling. And then, of course, what came after Aadhaar and UPI and so on and so forth. And now I'm back working with Nandan at People+AI, and we're trying to explore what AI means, to India in the future. It's all been very humbling as well as also learning for me. Still learning.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's just amazing to think that. I keep reminding people, you sometimes get a bit insensitized to large numbers in India, and we say, oh, we enrolled 1.4 billion people in 6 years. Yeah, okay, fine, that sounds. But when you translate it, that is Singapore every week for 6 years in a row, right? I mean, that is like, wow, the whole country, or the country of Australia every month. But anyway, so, of course, we work closely together in the first fund at Prime. Some great companies out of it, Happy, Quizzes, and of course, we're still actively working on several of them.
EasyTap.
Yes, and of course, EasyTap and ZipDial right at the start of the journey. Then you went off to starting MoneyTap, and it's now Freo, and certainly a second stint as an entrepreneur. Perhaps your first stint in India as an entrepreneur. Maybe you can do a little bit of comparison of your experiences in the Valley in the 90s versus building certainly a regulated fintech company here in India.
Yeah, I will tell you about the positives and negatives. So the positives are, I think you're solving sort of basic fundamental problems. In the US, you're solving very small esoteric problems. Here, you're solving some very basic thing. And also the access to demand. I mean, it's fairly clear, like, with Freo, what the demand is, what the customers want, and we have millions of customers using it. So that was very clear. The talent pool is easy here and accessible. In the Valley, it's a little harder to get. And also the satisfaction of doing something was much more profound, I would say, at Freo, because you're kind of making difference in people's lives. Not to say that we didn't do important things at Snapfish, but photos, it was a little bit of a higher order need on the Maslow's hierarchy than credit, which seemed like more basic. So I would say more satisfying at some level. The negatives are it's much less regulated, So here, especially in fintech, regulation plays a huge part, and understanding the complexities and the nuances of that is not easy, and also you can't go at the pace you need to go because especially in an industry like fintech. I think it's true in most industries. Not all.
And it has been a little choppy as well, right? Because the regulator has been literally a regulator, and making sure that we don't run into a situation that the country can't afford to be in, right? And therefore,
understand.
But the startup gets this window of opportunity to become big.
That is correct. So it's understandable, and at a macro picture level, they're right. We need to make sure we don't blow up, and we have not. India has not had the crisis like China had, for example, touch wood, or US or
Despite
UK.
COVID and everything.
Right? But it comes at a price. But overall, I would say it's very satisfying. It's just a different game to play. We're a lot more people-centric. So it's much more human, I would say, at the end of the day.
Bala, one of the things that's been keeping you busy, and you've sort of jumped in to the deep end of the pool, at least compared to me, is this whole new space of AI. And as I talk to people, there's various levels of understanding, including saying this is not yet real, to which is partly true by the name, to the other extreme of this is, the world, everybody's world has already changed completely and permanently, right? So maybe for an audience of entrepreneurs who are, I guess entrepreneurs fall in two categories, right? There are those who say, look, this is game changing and it's, I'm going to be destroyed if I don't embrace entirely. Or another category that says, oh wow, finally something is possible, it wasn't possible, and now this creates a new opportunity. To the other extreme of, sticking their head in the sand and saying, this is not real, right? And this is a long ways to go. My startup is not going to be impacted by this, right? So would be good to hear your views on the space itself, what's really happening, what excites you, how should entrepreneurs react to what they're seeing right now, how does one ensure that one is not, a lot of these things we tend to overestimate the impact in the short run, but underestimate the impact in the long run as well. So it would be great to hear your views on the topic.
Sure. So Sanjay, I came to AI, and I do so broadly three things in AI, just as to why I can talk about AI, at least that's my bias where I'm coming in. So number one is just sort of educating myself in AI. I did a BTech project in AI many moons ago, which is completely invalid now. But since then, I've been kind of curious about AI. So when Gen AI came on, I kind of went very deep and started reading it, started evangelizing about it. I run a closed WhatsApp group, which you and many other prime founders are on, just to educate myself and also, tell people what I like and don't like, and talk about what is the news in AI, and I send it to people like Nandan and others, like whatever bits that I've learned, that's more for like purely personal educational. The second thing I do in AI is that I'm an AI advisor to a private equity fund in Europe. It's about a $7 billion PE fund, and I work with multiple companies in Europe and US in AI transformation. So I get to see companies which are a little bit more scale, so anywhere from $30 million, $50 million to $1.5 billion of revenue companies, right? So what are they doing in AI? So I have some visibility and understanding of what works, what doesn't work. And lastly, I help out People+AI, which is a Nandan Nilekani initiative, part of XStep, as to what AI means to India, right? So I get to view this from like sort of three lenses: educational, just personal education, and sort of running a close group, actual in practice at PE funds, and what it means to India. And on top of that, I'm part of some boards of AI companies and so on and so forth. My view of AI is that, to answer your question, is it all bullshit, or is it like, I should be very scared? So I would say you should be very scared. Okay. So this is my analysis after about 2.5, ever since Gen AI came out, basically since November 2022. Not like really runaway scared, but like on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say you should be at an 8. Right? If you're sitting at 2, you're going to get buried. Right? So this is like using a feature phone, Nokia feature phone in 2010, and saying, yeah, iPhone is there, but it's slow and apps are not there, etc. It's all true. It is just that's not where the future is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I would say that is my broad perspective on where you should be. Right. Now, certain areas will get more impacted than others. Right. I just I did a workshop at the MoneyTap group last couple of weeks ago, talking to the CEO. So there are some groups which are, but even they are like very up to speed on AI. They are like seriously doing a lot of initiatives on AI, right? And they are like a more industrial kind of a group. So it is here. It is now. Everybody is already on it. Right? Whether they want to tell everybody about it or not depends on the culture of the company. A lot of people are using ChatGPT but don't want to tell their bosses that they're using it because they're worried like, they're considered cheating. But it's already here. What impact is it going to have, is a more detailed question depending on which industry you're in. But there is no question in my mind that you should be really, really taking it seriously if you're not already doing it.
So let's look at it from the tech startup ecosystem, right? And the way I'm looking at it is there are three buckets. There are startups that can that have a product where the product itself might not necessarily be impacted that much, but their entire experience with their customer base, whether it's from the marketing side of it, the acquisition, the service delivery, etc. And Freo would probably be an example of that, right? I mean, the core customer underwriting and lending part may or may not initially be dramatically impacted, but the marketing and acquisition and service and all of that, right? So that's one part. Then there are businesses that that were not possible in the past, products that weren't possible but suddenly become possible, right? And then there's the third extreme of companies where it's a large established business, is running on its own, but something new is going to come and disrupt them completely, right? So if you think about those three buckets, and many startups sort of fall in that third category also, right, where they think that they're, completely secure, but they might get, as you said, they better be worried here. What are your views on some examples of what founders can do to remain nimble, right? Because they are caught up with running their business on a daily basis, and they really can't be even reading your WhatsApp group, right, that you have set up. So how does one educate oneself? How does one, stay abreast of what's going on? Things are moving so fast that's sort of really intimidating as well.
I've been an entrepreneur most of my life, except for our stint at Aadhaar and my stint at Prime Ventures. So I fully get, as an entrepreneur, you're solving like 50 problems every day. Mm-hmm. So, it's anything which is nice to have usually gets deprioritized, right? Anything that is not immediate. And as a founder, you also need to think about long term as well as short term, right? You're thinking all. It's not an option to say, I'll think only short term because then you'll get destroyed, or only long term, right? I used to call it you have to have your head above the clouds to see the big picture, but also feet on the ground so that you don't miss what is happening, right? And so you don't have a choice to do both. So as a founder, especially for the founders, right? The founder CEOs, you don't have an option but to not look at this, right? You can't say, hey man, this is not immediately impacting me, so let me come to it. I just have more pressing problems, and I speak that with a lot of empathy because I've been in that shoes many times, and I get it.
The
right?
3 hours of sleep you were getting, cut it down to 2.
Yeah, and sadly you need to pay it because this is going to impact you one way or the other. Now, how it's going to impact you is going to depend whether you're in this category number 2, which is you're saying that the AI is the disruptor, or AI is like a nice to have. Right? Or, I'm really fine, but, maybe I should watch out for a disruption, right? These are broadly the 3 categories you said. So for all these categories, one thing is common, and one thing, there is an actionable thing every founder can do, which is start using the tools, right? Because in every category, there are low-hanging fruits today that AI can do, right? So we can go across the board. Sales, marketing is changing. Digital marketing is completely changing. So I'm deeply involved with, for example, what's happening with SEO and search in general, right? Mm-hmm. Search is a big source of customers for most people. Meta is also changing, not as much as Google search is, right? Costs are going up. Sales is changing, right? How you're selling is changing with AI. A/B testing in marketing. So marketing, we can go in a deep topic. Creatives, so on and so forth. Sales is changing. Product is definitely changing, right? How product managers should use AI is changing. Coding is changing.
Give an example on product managers.
So product managers can, are really the product management and engineering, at least the prototyping, design, product management is all fusing, right? Because AI is the best writer you can have. It's the best brainstorming partner you can have, right? So writing very detailed documents and using AI, you must be doing it, otherwise you're not doing something. And then you should be using vibe coding, which is a whole topic we can talk about, to create mockups and prototypes, right, before even going something to the engineer. So product managers need to do much more. but they can do it much faster and better.
Yeah.
Doing competitive analysis, no brainer, right? You can go to go scrape every website of your competition and get me all the features, right? I did this live demo for them, in that seminar that I did. You just go pull competition and tell me the best features that they have. I don't, and keep it current. Sentiment analysis, there's an endless number of things that product managers can do much faster, much better. Coding, whole new topic. In almost every phase, from definition, design, architecture, to DevOps and coding, there's a whole topic of how you can use AI. And of course, in customer service, it's already there, right? You should be using it. So across the board, stepping back, in terms of productivity of what a startup can do, you ought to be using AI, right? And that, I would say, is a good start, whether you're in category 1, 2, or 3 in your bucket. And that, I would say, is actionable because it's going to give you some benefit. But the change is very hard, right? It's very hard for organizations, whether you're a startup or a large company. So this has to be led by the founders.
Yeah.
Right? If the founders are not bought in, this is not going to happen. So you are, as a founder, in short, you have to decide, hey, is this something I want to take seriously or not? Bala says it's an 8. I don't buy it, right? I think it's a 2, and that's fine. That's your choice. But if you believe that it's an 8, right, then you need to put in those few hours in no matter which category you are in, right? And the best ideas are not going to come from me, or even Sanjay, VCs like you. Even though you're pretty close to the company,
I will have the best ideas. It's not the matter. But
they might not take your best ideas. You always have the best ideas. But the founders and CEOs are going to have the best ideas on how to use it, right? What you need to start using it. And there is only one thing you need to know about this hallucination, etc. And this is the reason for the AI skeptics, right? It's kind of it's a stochastic beast, right? So I call it, it's like I ride motorcycles, as you know, for fun. And it's like riding a motorcycle in a desert, right? So it's the sands are shifting. You're going up a dune, right? It's not, you need to roughly know I'm going in that direction, but you're going to be going here, you're going to be going there, and you need to steer it. And whether you're coding, vibe coding is very much, if you vibe code, and Sanjay, I know you're playing with Lovable and so on and so forth, you get the feeling like that, right? I know I roughly need to go there, but this beast is going to take me in this direction, right? This bike is going to shift, suddenly it's going to stall, right? You need to kind of push the bike back, right? You need to get off the bike, you're going to fall down a few times, right? All of this is going to happen.
There's really no rigid right or wrong, right? In these, as you say, there's a broad directionality, there's more or less there, and certainly to getting close to what might feel like a destination, one can do it much faster. And
there are a number of techniques to make it better, especially in vibe coding, where you're doing it in small steps, right? Don't go from here to there, plan the next step. If it doesn't work, backtrack. So there are some, people are putting in some rigor on how to do better prompting and so on and so forth, right? But it's fundamentally you're riding a beast that you don't completely control, right? And whether you're a product manager, whether you're a coder, this is what you need to internalize, right? It sounds perfect, but it's not perfect, right? And it's wild, but it's also kind of like the fun. So
the other day I did something fun on this with my wife. Actually, we were talking about some.
It's really fun about your wife. Let's not talk about it too much. It's a family. It's a family audience here.
Yes, absolutely. But I'll tell you some secrets. So what we did, we were discussing some project we wanted to embark on. I said, let's turn on granola, right? And we just started chatting, and it summarized whatever. And I copied and pasted that into two tools. One was Gamma, and I said, create a presentation and create a website for this initiative. And then I copied it into Lovable, and I said, okay, this needs to be an ongoing initiative. Create an application, or obviously mock-ups of an application. But then I later even tried connecting it to Superbase and having a database at the back end also, right? And my God, the level of sophistication in a 20-minute version that you can get, it is stunning. In fact, even yesterday I was chatting with one of our other founders about, how are they using it, and then I went to his website as we were sort of in this WhatsApp chat, and I copied and pasted the description of one of their products into Lovable, and at the end of a 20-minute chat said, okay, by the way, here's your product, all built, right? And there was, obviously it's a mock-up of a product, but the fact that you can get pretty far, right, and conceptualizing it, so as you said, A/B testing, all of these things, or meeting customers and say, would you buy this? It almost seems that, there should never be any founder pitching you an idea stage thing anymore. They should be able to at least show you a mock-up of saying, hey,
Absolutely.
this is what we're going to do, right? So, look, this whole AI thing is, we're super excited. And I think, as you said, you just have to start playing around with it. And you talked a little bit about motorcycling. So tell us a little bit about the Bala that is not working.
I do a bunch of stuff. I just went. I went to Oman last week for diving. I just went by myself, and it was good fun, scuba diving. But
So you're going to talk about why you go by yourself.
what happens in a very conservative Islamic country stays in the conservative Islamic country, as they say. But it was dry. I didn't know that Oman had like no alcohol.
Really?
Yeah, except in a few hotels. But no, I like biking. That's my big weakness. This year we're going to Central Asia with a bunch of guys, and
So I have to tell you all a little bit of my two favorite Bala Parthasarathy moments. We were interviewing a person for a role at Prime, and Bala told me, well, yeah, at 9:30 a.m. my time, which will be around like 7 p.m. your time, I will be available for 20 minutes and I'll do this interview. Right. And so the interview happened, and then this candidate calls me back later and said, he was on some highway shack in Peru. Are you guys serious about this interview, right? But he had grilled the daylights out of her in that 20 minutes. And I said, how did the interview go? She said, he asked me all these questions, but, was he really serious in this thing? And then, of course, 10 seconds later, I got a WhatsApp message from him saying, these are all the things I did, is that thumbs up, let's go ahead. Right? And that's the one thing I really admire about you, Bala, because you can be doing all these things. The other episode was also very interesting. We had a term sheet with a 5 p.m. deadline that we were trying to sign. And I have not heard from Bala for 3 days. And I'm saying, hey, what the heck, do we do this or deal or not? And at 4:57, I get a +977 number ringing on my phone, and a call from Nepal saying, Sanjay, this is Bala. Almost no coverage here. So that's the other set of amazing things you've done around hiking and things like that. But your ability, I think, to intertwine hardcore business with personal time and pleasure and family and things like that, I think is really something that, people who work with you take for granted, but it's something that most people struggle to balance. Maybe you can end with a little bit of any anecdotes from your side or some tips on how people should balance all of these.
Look, especially if it's a founder audience, balance is like not a good word, because all founders are imbalanced by definition. Whenever I was very deep in the company, I was usually imbalanced. And I was, maniacally doing only one thing. The truth is, to use the cliche, it is kind of a long race. It's not like, oh, I'll do this for 2 years and I'll sell the company. It's a minimum 10-year race, and 10 years is a big part of your life. If you are 25 or 35 or 45, it becomes more and more critical. So, you do need to take care of your family, number one, and then you don't want to have regrets, like, the cliche that I never see my kids grow up. You definitely need to take care of yourself as well, personally, and whatever that fun be, right? So I've been lucky. I've had good co-founders who put up with my shit to be able to and partners.
Tell me about it.
Exactly. But they'll remember fond stories like you did, and some nasty stories they won't talk on a podcast. But life goes on, and but you have to live your life, and that's my philosophy. So
awesome.
Play hard, work hard, but definitely play hard. It's super important.
Terrific. Bala, thank you so much. And on that high note, we shall end. Work hard, play hard.
Listeners, thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast app for free, and you'll be the first one to know when new episodes are available. Just search for Prime Venture Partners Podcast in Apple Podcast, Spotify, Castbox, or however you get your podcasts. Then hit subscribe. And if you have enjoyed the show, we would be really grateful if you leave us a review on Apple Podcast. To read the full transcript, find the link in the show notes.